Hello everyone, welcome back to Kirklees Guitar School. In today's guitar lesson, I'm going to teach you how to play Still Got the Blues by Gary Moore. Now, before we go any further, if you head to the first link in the description, you can download a free 4-page PDF for this lesson completely for free. Don't want anything from you. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to do any nonsense. Just go on the website and click download PDF. This is really going to help you get this under your fingers. We've also got nearly 100 other guitar lessons with free resources that you can download for free. Go check it out. So I've got a bit of waffling to do, but let me just put the intro on screen for you while I am waffling. I've done the intro before, which was a really successful lesson, and a lot of you asked for me to do the rest of it. Now, rather than me just doing the remainder of the song, I figured we'd just do the whole song in one big video. So if you already know how to play this is nothing different from the lesson that I did about 18 months ago, but if you already know how to play this bit, by all means, head to the verse section for the using the chapters feature down below, and we'll get that, and you can start cracking on that way. We'll talk about tones and stuff in a bit, but let's just get straight into it. So this is what we're going to start with. Now, I've got 3 slides to break this down, so let's do it piece by piece. So I'm going to start in the 10th position, and I'm playing 10th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret, in this kind of like pentatonic box. 10th fret on the B, 10th fret on the high E, 12th fret on the high E. In fact, I'm just going to bring that down just a smidge. He says. That's better. Right, moving into the second bar, I'm going to bend this note, and you have to really watch this in this piece because he does a lot of half bends. If you're a member of the academy, there's a technical focus lesson that goes along with this, which talks about half and full tone bends. It's a really big part of this. If you overbend that note, it's going to sound gross. So what I'd like you to do initially, play the first 4 notes, but when you get to this 12th fret, I want you to bend it half a step. So what that means is you're going to bend it the equivalent of 1 fret on the guitar. So that's an E note, and you're going to bend it up to F. Let me overbend that and just listen to what it sounds like. Doesn't sound right, does it? I'm then going to bend it again and then bring it back down to pitch. And then finish on that 10th fret. Pause the video and get that under your fingers. I think of this song in phrases, and that's like one big phrase, starting from here, 10th fret of the B, to finishing on the 10th fret of the high E. I've watched a lot of live clips. I always played it up here, and actually in my original version, you hear how I overbent it then. I did it up here. Well, actually, going back and looking at some of the live clips, like live in Montreux Jazz Festival and stuff, he's playing it here. So that's the first bit. We're then going to do a position shift all the way up here. Now, this ties into the next phrase, so I just want you to bear that in mind. We're going to the B string, and we're playing the 13th fret and the 15th fret, which is a C and a D. Moving on to a 2nd fret. We're going to bend that 15 as his 3rd note in the sequence. Now, this is a full bend this time. And we follow the same kind of pattern. We bend it a 2nd time, slowly bring it down, and finish on that 13 with loads of vibrato. You see that sort of jagged line. So you're going to bend the 15, bend it again, but bring it down to the 13th fret, and then add loads of vibrato. And to get that vibrato, I'm sort of doing this sort of the B.B. King kind of butterfly thing, where I'm playing with that 13 with the index finger, and it's like I'm opening a door. It's that motion. Pressing walkways is another good study for that. So remembering the 13 and the 14 all the way over here. And then we bolt it onto this. Now we're going to play 10, 12, 13 on the B string. which seems a bit counterintuitive, but that's the way that he's playing it, okay? And the internet likes to get cross with me with this kind of stuff, but that's how Gary's playing it. I've seen it with my own eyes. He spends a lot of time stretching over where you'd think to play with your ring finger, and he's actually playing with the middle finger. He spends a lot of time bending and just playing generally with his middle finger, which is quite unusual. Moving on to the third and final slide in this section. So we've just played 10, 12, 13 on the B string. I'm then going to bend that 13th fret and then apply vibrato to the bend while it's up there. If you're struggling with these bends and vibrato, check out the technical focus lesson in the academy on this. And you see how we do that again? There's a pattern here, isn't there? We bend it up and bring it down and then add a shed load of vibrato. 10th fret on the B, 12 with the middle finger and then bend it. Now, sometimes he slides into 14 here and sometimes he bends it. I prefer the sound of, I believe he's bending it on the original record, which I've taken most of the inspiration from. So I'm bending it there. But if you want to be super duper, if you want extra brownie points, you could slide into that 14. At the end of the day, doesn't really matter. As long as you're getting that note to an A, who cares? Okay. Just one last thing before we glue all this together. You'll see sometimes I notate notes in brackets like this. Now, what that means is you're still going to play this 12th fret, but you're holding on to the note so long that we actually need to bolt another note onto it. Now, it's called a tie, is that. We don't need to play that 12 a second time when you see these. So far, the intro, when you play it, it should sound like this. Pause the video and get that under your fingers, because this is like the main motif for the song. We're sort of, all the lead parts that we look at from this point forwards are kind of built on that framework with subtle differences. It comes back to it. I think it's 3 times in total. Okay, that being the first time. It's a really good idea to get that under your fingers. Use the neck pickup with a little bit of overdrive and it'll sound mega. So moving on from there, we've got this section here. Now, don't run off. There's some scary looking chords in here, but actually it's not as scary. Once you break it down, it's not as scary as it looks. So we're in 12/8 time, and we're essentially picking every quaver. Now, although we're in 12/8, I'm still going to count it in sixes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Think of songs like House of the Rising Sun have kind of got a similar feel. So we're going to play D minor 7 followed by F, C, F major 7, and it just follows this lovely chord progression of a kind of. And I'll take you through this. You see how it evolves? It's all kind of the same thing until we get to the E. And then you've got A minor, G, B. So once you start picking it down, what I want you to think of this in the way that we're going to break it down. Break it up into little six quaver, 6 note chunks, and just keep doing a little bit every time you pick your guitar up. That's probably the best way to get your fingers around this. So let's have a look at the first bit. So D minor 7. Now, let me know in the Facebook group if you're struggling with some of these shapes, but the PDF would be a million miles long, so I've opted to just kind of show you on screen. If you need some extra help with this, reach out to me on the Facebook group and I'll sort something out. So D minor 7, we're going to play the 2nd fret of the A, 1st fret of the B, 1st fret of the 2nd fret of the A. It's an A note. 2nd fret of the G. Sorry, my mistake. 1st fret of the B, 1st fret of the high E. And what I'm doing is I'm barring those two fellas and I'm putting the 2nd finger on that 2nd fret there. And can you see how we're picking D, G, B, E and coming back on ourselves here? Try that for me. I'm just working on the first 6 notes here. Now, to turn this chord into an F, and I can leave these 2 fingers, these 3 notes pressed down. I'll take the ring finger and just press the 3rd fret of the of the D string to get the root note, to get that F, and I'm going to pick the same notes. So I've got D minor 7, F. I'm then going to break out of that formation, but I'm going to keep the index finger on that first fret of the B, move the others up to give me a C chord. And can you see how I've deviated from the pattern now? I'm picking the root note on the A string for the C chord. F major 7, I take these two fellas, the second finger and the third finger, move them down a string to create F major 7. So that's third finger, second finger, first finger on the D, the G and the B strings. And then break to D minor, just a regular D minor. And then we go to E major. Now E major is a bit of an outlier. I'm still going to fret the full chord, even though I'm only pressing the first fret of the G string there, just out of habit, and I'd encourage you to do the same. But I'm going to break out of the pattern by picking the low E string to give that big fat E. It just kind of adds a little bit of extra texture. So you've got D minor 7, F, C, F major 7, D minor, E. I'll show you the rest of that in a second, but just either pause and get those first 4 bars on your fingers, or I just kind of want to elaborate on this a little bit more. If you pick one note out of all of these in the wrong place, providing you're holding the same chord, it's not the end of the world, okay? Don't go for... I'd much rather you pick in the correct rhythm and you occasionally catch the wrong string, okay? Because Gary would do that as well, okay? I think it's also worth mentioning, on the original recording, it's all keyboards, there's no guitar whatsoever, but then in any of the live clips, I can see Gary mirroring the chords, picking them with this pattern, so that's why I decided to put this in. Rightly or wrongly, some people will disagree. Moving on to the second part of that, we've got this climb between A minor and G over B. Now, it sounds like we know what we're doing. You are mistaken. It's essentially just a movement around that A minor. So I'm going to fret an A minor for the first 3 notes. I'm going to pick the A, the D, and then I'm going to strike the G and the B at the same time. It's almost a bit... kind of reminds me of Hurt by Johnny Cash. I'm then going to take my middle finger, I'm going to move it up to the second fret of the A string to catch that note. I'm then going to pick the open D that I've just vacated, and then I'm going to pick those 2 fellas again. So you see, we've got A minor, move the finger up. Now that's a passing chord. It's not supposed to sound amazing, but what it's supposed to sound like we're going somewhere, because then I'm going to break out of formation and I'm going to play this 3rd fret down here of the A string. And it kind of just, it's what we call cadence. It's all right in the world again. And then we round that off. The only time we're going to break out of this chord formation is this bar over here. And we're going to pick the open 3rd fret of the A string and then second finger on the 2nd fret of the D. We'll try that again. Now, can you see this rest here, this funny looking 7? I want you to consciously stop between that 3rd fret of the A string and the open A string. I know you could hear my reverb on my amplifier a little bit there, but I want you to really think, I want you to acknowledge that rest. I only ever put rests in when it's absolutely necessary, and I believe it is in this case. And then this is just the same as the first bar. D minor 7, F, C, F major 7. You know, this we just go back a slide. It's just the first 2 bars repeated after this little walk up. Pause the video and get this bit under your fingers for me. Right. We're going to round this off with D minor, Now B minor 7, now you'd be inclined to play it like this, which is incorrect. It's a different what we call inversion. The notes are in a different order. It's still a B minor 7, but just not in the way that sits nicely on guitar, unfortunately. It's kind of like a B7, but kind of mixed up a little bit. So I'm going to take the middle finger. I'm over here. 2nd fret of the A string. I'm going to play that with the middle finger. I'm then going to play the 2nd fret of the G with the 3rd finger. I'm then going to play the 3rd fret of the B string with my pinky, and I'm going to use the 1st fret with my index finger. So you see how it's like a B, it's like a bastardized B7. If I hit the note right. Essentially, it's a D minor with a B in the bass. Now, we'll get onto that in a second, because there's a couple of funky looking chords when actually it looks like other shapes that we're used to. And this is kind of in keyboard player kind of territory, but hopefully I can give you a bit of an insight into that. Following that, we've got this little... And what that does is it's just giving you this, going into the chorus, the... I think the lyric's so lonely, but it's way too high for me to even attempt singing it. So you see how we just kind of keep staying in the same kind of picking pattern, but then we've got this kind of little power chord, open E string, 2nd fret of the A. And I should have maybe put a crescendo on that. I want you to gradually get louder as we move to the next section. So that's what all 3 of those slides look like together. D minor, F, C, F major 7, D minor, E, A, G, B, D minor, F, C, F major 7, D minor, B minor 7, E. It's really hard to play and say that at the same time. Now, just a word of warning on that E7, sorry, that E5, very last bar. You'll be guilty of cutting that short and getting ready for the next section because you forget you're in 12/8 time. Yeah, just look back at that for me. Very last bar. Can you see how we're going to play 12 of those? I'm guilty sometimes when I was doing the playthrough for the academy. I was playing 9 and jumping ahead. Just bear in mind you're in 12/8 time for this. So far, we've talked about the intro and we've talked about the verse. Now notice how up top right hand corner where it says verse and D minor 7, there's a funny looking bracket that opens that very first bar. That's called a repeat marker. So what that tells us, in the not too distant future, we're going to be coming back there. So earmark that for later on. If I was studying this personally myself, I would take a highlighter and I'd highlight that bracket just to remind me for verse 2, that's where we're going to go. Pause the video, get those 2 bits under your fingers before we press on to the chorus. We've literally got a chorus and a bit of a solo bit. Oh, there's a bridge too. But yeah, there's 3 more bits we need to work on for the full transcription. Okay, so we've just come out of there. We've just played that. So this next bit introduces a technique that I call lemp. Now, some of you may correct me, and that's not strictly correct. I borrowed this from gypsy jazz music. If you ever come across a great guitar player called Django Reinhardt, he plays guitar like this. And what we do is we play these little kind of chords, but I don't know if you can see as I'm strumming the guitar. Can you see this hand over here? As I strum the guitar, I'm pressing down the chord, but then I immediately let go of it. And it's patting your head, rubbing your tummy stuff. Can you hear how I'm kind of cutting the notes short? So I'm going to play a little A minor 7. So I'm going to bar the 5th fret of the G, the B and the high E strings with my index finger. And I'm playing those 3 notes, squeeze in as I play it, and then I relieve the pressure with this hand. Now, it's going to take a bit of coordination. It's going to take a bit of getting used to. it gives it that kind of jazz blues kind of flavour that this section has. And all I'm doing is I'm playing A minor 7 for 6 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I then move up to E minor 7, which could be mistaken as a G as well. We'll talk about why that's so in a second. But it looks like a little D major chord, but instead of on fret 2 and fret 3, I'm on fret 7 and fret 8. And I'm doing the rest of the bar up there. So I've got A, E. And then as we get over here, I'm going to do a full bar on A minor 7 there. Pause the video and practice that technique. I call it lemp. It's kind of a, it's lemp-esque, but not as faithful to gypsy jazz as it probably should be. On, off, on, off. Moving on into the next bit, you're going to go to an F9 chord, to E7 sharp 9, and then A minor. And then you've got this stab over here. So what does that look like? Well, F9 is basically the 8th fret of the A string with your middle finger, 7th fret of the D string with your index finger, and then I want you to take your ring finger and bar all the remaining 8 frets. This is borrowed. This chord's really common in like funk and soul, like James Brown. It's that kind of 70s soul thing. We're then going to go to E7 sharp 9, which sounds a lot more complicated than it is. If you ever played the Hendrix chord in Purple Haze, is that chord? How do we get that? Well, it's very similar. We're essentially going to take this shape that we've just played for F9, kick it down a fret. I'm going to play 7th fret with the middle finger on the A string. I'm going to play the 6th fret on the D string with the index finger. I'm then going to play the 7th fret, and instead of barring the 7th fret like I do for that 9 shape, I'm just going to play that G string there. And I'm going to take my pinky and I'm going to spread it out and kick a leg out of bed for that 8th fret of the B string. And I'm just going to strum the middle 4 strings of the guitar. Again, it's not an amazing sounding chord, but when you bookend it between F9 and then A minor, which we're going to bar the 5th fret of the all 6 strings at the 5th fret with the index finger, and I'm going to make an E minor shape on fret 7 of the A and the D. It's got a big A minor chord. It sounds okay. And then down here, I'm just going to play the top of the chord again. So let me play A minor 7, E minor 7, A minor 7. Then going to go F9, still got the blues for you. That repeat marker's come up again, hasn't it? So from that point, we go all the way back to the beginning of the verse where we hit that D minor 7 chord. So we're essentially going to play intro, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Now having played the verse and the chorus twice, we're getting on to his bridge section, which kind of takes you from a chorus into the kind of instrumental solo section and then into the ending. So we're going to go up to B minor 7, and I want to use this as an opportunity to talk about some of these chord names because you might recognise them as other chords. Now, sometimes when you're playing these, I call these Motown chords. Sometimes when you're playing little 3 and 4 note chords up the neck, which are kind of derived from bigger bar chord or what we call cage shapes, sometimes those notes fit into different boxes. Now, there's lots of movement in the bass in this song. What I mean by that is you might perceive something to change in the music, but the guitar part is still staying the same. So like we'll set on that A minor chord for some time, or let's have a look through some of these sections. Like B minor to E9, for example. Now, a note in the bass will move to make this change happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every instrument needs to change. Those 3 notes that we're playing for B minor 7 will also fit over the E9 chord. Now, the reason that I've done this is watching Gary play these parts, live in various live clips on YouTube, I can hear the keyboard and the bass player moving notes, but he stays the same. So I think what he's doing there is he's sort of, because it fits, he's taking more, he's spending more time focusing on his vocal as opposed to anything else. So that's why you'll see the chord change, but nothing changes for us. Sometimes that's the case. Like, for example, A minor 7, G, C6, although that looks like an E minor. Let's not get too wrapped up in that. If you want to take part in the theory course that I've got coming out on the website, that'll really help you kind of understand all this. You need to understand how harmony works for that to make sense. If you're still quite early days with this stuff, you're going to have to take my word for it, okay? So B minor 7 is just the same as A minor 7. We're over here now, and we're going to bar the 7th fret, and we're going to do this for a full bar across these two chord changes, still keeping the lemp technique. I'm then going to go to this chord here where I'm going to bar the 8th fret of the B and the high E with the index finger, and then I'm going to take the middle finger and play this up here. Now this looks almost like a C major kind of shape, and it can be construed as that. So you've got 8th fret, 8th fret, 9th fret. You're going to do this just for 3 beats. Go down to that D shape on the 7th fret that we talked about for G. We have also called that E minor 7 in the past. And then we're going to go down to C6, which is barring the 5th fret of the G, the B, and the high E. So you've got... Continuing this theme into the second slide, we go back to the B minor and E7. F major 7. E minor 7. D minor 7. You're going to sit on this D minor for quite some time compared to the other two chords. These are your bog standard major and minor 7 derived from the A shape. F major 7 based on the 10th fret, E minor 7 based on the 7, D minor based on the 5th. And then we go back to this A minor. And can you see, we're going to strum it for six beats. And then on the 7th, we do an accent. We're going to hit that, and we're going to hit it quite hard. And get ready to go back into... which we'll tackle in due course. But let's just have a look at those two bits together. So you've got B minor 7, E9, A minor 7, A minor, G, C6, B minor, E, F, E, D, A, etc. Now, for members of the academy, you'll get a playthrough of this where you can see it all with the tab scrolling underneath it. Okay, I've literally just filmed that before this one. So then we're getting into a solo section now, which looks, that's the ending, not the solo section. Looks awfully familiar apart from a couple of little bits. So I've put the overdrive pedal back on, and there's nothing really different here apart from one note. I'll just give you a second to see if you can spot it. If you compare the very beginning of the tab to what you can see now, there's nothing new here. We used to rest here in the intro, but now we're going to play that 12th fret with the index finger of the G. Tiny detail, but worth warranting because he does it again in the before the song's out. And then we go down to the 10th fret. That's not 10th fret, that's the 8th fret. That's anyway, getting off on piste, but you get the idea. So we've got just the intro again, but we've got a couple of little, as we go into the second part, you can see there's nothing new here. Now this links two lots round. Can you see how we're going to go 10th fret, 12th fret, and then we're going to bend the 12th fret a half step. Don't overbend it. Sounds gross if you bend it. Again, we're going round for the second time now. Where are we? Now, going round it for the second time, we start hitting the variations now. So, where you would normally go, we're actually going to do a position shift. After those 4 notes, we're going to go up to the 15th fret. You see how we go 15th fret of the high E, 15, 15. I had to play that just to remind myself how it's gone. It's all I've played all morning, and it all kind of turns into mush if you're not careful. So we do a position shift up to the 15th fret of the high E. I'm then going to do a quick bend on the 15 of the B. Full bend up to E. We then 12th fret. Very, very similar to what we've tackled already. Now, this is where sort of it all starts to unravel for me. We've got 10th. You know, can you see how we're following the same idea? It's variation on a theme. He's just taking different ideas. Bend the 13 twice. And he sort of does that. Right, let's take a breath. I'm getting a bit carried away, aren't I? 10, 12, 13. I'm then going to bend the 13. And you see how I bend it a second time and then a third time and do a hammer on and a pull off. Bog standard kind of blues lick. And then at the very end, I'm going to go to the 10th fret of the high E and pull off between the 13 and the 10. And then we go into this monster lick. Now, just before I do so, I need to preface this. In preparation for this lesson, I watched 6 separate clips of Gary Moore playing this at various kind of, because I think Still Got the Blues is 1990. You could correct me. It's late 80s, early 90s. I've watched clips from back in the day when that was a single, right up to kind of mid-2000s before his passing, and all sort of like in between. In that sort of 20-year span, this lick I'm going to show you, he doesn't play it the same way twice. Now what he's doing is he's going all the way up to first position, what looks like first position of A minor pentatonic, and he's throwing as many notes as he can fit in it. Now those of you that are Academy members will see that in the playthrough, I've just jammed as many notes as I can in there. I've transcribed what I believe him to be playing on the original record, but I don't feel like there's any kind of rhyme or reason for it. He's just throwing as many notes as he can because it's a big kind of crescendo and release of the solo. If you've got to this point, and this is the only bar that's tripping you up, congratulations, because it's tripping me up as well, okay? I'll break it down what he's doing on the record, but don't get too hung up on it. Don't let one bar spoil this whole piece for you. In a gig scenario, I would play something very similar, but I won't get bent out of shape about playing it 100% original to the record. You take from that what you will. I'll provide you what he's playing if you want to try and squeeze it in, but I figured it was, I had better things to do with my time. So, after we've done that sort of bluesy thing, I'm going to come all the way up to the dusty end to the 20th fret of the high E. I'm going to do a full bend. I'm then going to do a half bend. Let me put some drive on. and play the 20th fret, be a start. I'm then going to start walking down the pentatonic, 17th fret of the high E, 20th, 17th of the B, and bend on that 19. That's kind of one phrase. Now, watch these bends on the 19th because he does halves and he does full ones depending on where he is in the phrase. He's going for the blues note here, and then he's going up to the, he's going for the sort of House of Blues extension in the minor pentatonic. So far we've played here, up to and including this bend on the 19th fret. I'm then going to play the 17th fret of the B, and then come back to the G string, bend it, bring it back, 17, double pick on the 19. I'm going from the bent note on the 19th fret to the double on the 19. Following that, I'm gonna do this kind of bog standard blues lick where I bend the G string and then 17, 17. I'm then gonna play the two 17s again. And then I'm going to start making my way back to the root notes. So 20 and 17, 19 on the G, 17 on the B, bend the 19, 17, bend again. Okay? So you see what I mean? There's a lot in it, isn't there? And I'm finding it really hard to cram all that in. If you want to have a go, be my guest. Okay? Right. So following that point, we're going to go back to the chorus. Now, it's not really a full chorus. It's quite tame actually in comparison. And this is where I'm talking about the two guitarists on the gig kind of vibe. There's that guitar solo was quite clearly an overdub because these chords come in before that final bend's finished. So I'll leave it up to you how you want to play that. I kind of cut that big pentatonic lick early to get to the A minor in time, and that's how I did it on the playthrough. Okay, so you've got A minor, E minor 7, A minor, C6, F9 again, E7 sharp 9, A minor. We've done all this before. The only thing that changes is bottom left. You see how you've got this E5 chord? And you're going to do 4 stabs on E5. So that's 7th fret of the A, 9th fret of the D, 9th fret of the G. I'm going to do 4 stabs there. I'm then going to take that. I'm going to move it up 3 frets, or what we call a minor third, to the G5, and I'm just going to catch that last one there. And then we've got the other half of the A minor, E minor 7, A minor, F9, E7 sharp 9, and then we go into the intro. So there's, other than those stabs on that E5 chord, it's identical to the previous 2 times that we've done it. It's just trying to link you back to... You see the lead there, and that's continued over here. The only thing that's different is the bottom right-hand bar, where he sort of starts gradually working up the neck. And I feel like this has been a bit of an improvisation type thing, where he'll play the 12th fret, coming from... And it feels a little incomplete on the tabs, but that's just simply because the record fades out and I've got nothing else to go off. So I hope you found that helpful. It's one of those where you sort of, I don't know if you've kind of got that. The first couple of sections, you really need your hand holding, and then it's all just variation on a theme. That's why we kind of got quicker as the lesson went on. Tone-wise, so it's a Gibson Les Paul that he's playing. It's not greeny, the internet says. Yeah, I'm sure somebody will tell me off if that's not correct. I'm under the impression he'd sold greeny, Peter Green's Les Paul, by the time this was recorded. Some legal issues or something. And he kind of got into, he's using, the internet says that it's a Soldano that he's using. He's sort of got into more boutique, kind of high-end Marshall clones. I'm using a Quad Cortex today with a Gibson Les Paul Standard. On the Quad Cortex, I'm using a Marshall JCM 800, and it's not even really wound up that far. But then I've got a clon in the front for... How you get this at home with something like a Boss Katana, I would use a pedal for when you're playing it because there's very clear kind of night and shade. I wouldn't choose one guitar tone to play the whole song. What I would do is I'd get a nice kind of clean tone with a little bit of rasp on the neck pickup of your guitar. And then I would have an overdrive pedal that was quite what we call saturated. There's quite a lot of gain, overdriven gain rather than distortion. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you those... It's going to give you that sustain. So what did you think about that? Let me know in the comments what I should cover next. I'll see you next week for another electric guitar lesson. Thank you so much.